Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Museum Munchkins. I'm Mr. Nick, and today we are talking all about manatees. And we're going to start off by singing a manatee song. If you want to stand up on your feet. All right, now this song is called Oh My Manatee, and while we sing it, we can pretend like we're in a warm, tropical ocean, nice warm water that's slowly swirling around us, or we're slowly swimming through it like a manatee. We can use our imaginations and pretend we're doing that while we sing and listen to our song today. Manatees swim in the ocean, down in the Florida Keys. Manatees swim in the ocean and play in the estuaries. Oh, my manatee, swimming so wild and free, so free. Oh, my manatee, down in the deep blue sea. Have you ever seen a manatee before? They sort of have these long whiskers on their face. So can we make some long whiskers on our face like that with our fingers while we swim around in the ocean? Well, manatees have some vibrancy. Mustachioed mammals they be. Their whiskers really are helpful for searching for food in the sea. Oh, my manatee, swimming so wild and free, so free. Oh, my manatee, down in the deep blue sea. Oh, my manatee, swimming so wild and free, so free. Oh, my manatee, down in the deep blue sea. Very good. That was some excellent swimming slowly like a manatee. I'm going to set my guitar down so we can talk all about manatees. Now, I know I already asked, but have you ever seen a manatee before? Well, they are really interesting animals. Maybe you've been way down south in the United States, like in Florida, and you've seen a manatee swimming in the ocean. Or maybe you've seen a manatee at a zoo or an aquarium. Well, they're really wonderful animals, and sometimes they're also called sea cows, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we can actually find manatees in a lot of places around the world. So let's spin my globe. So we find them around here, down in Florida, and along the Gulf of Mexico and the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. We find them around the Caribbean, and we find them all the way down the coast of Mexico and Central America, all down the coast of South America into Brazil. We find them, is that where we find manatees that live around here in the United States. So there's actually 3 different types of manatees. So there's the West Indian manatee, or sometimes called the Florida manatee, which is the one that lives here and lives all the way down to Brazil. Then there's also the Amazonian manatee, and they live here in the Amazon jungle in South America. And then there's the West African manatee. Can you guess where they live? Yeah, they live on the western side of Africa. So we find them from Mali up here all the way down to Angola. We find them all along the coast here, and actually even up into some rivers and things around the western part of Africa. Now there's another cousin of them that's closely related called the dugong, and we actually find them on the other side of Africa, up around the Indian Ocean and over here in Southeast Asia and around Australia. So we find manatees and their relatives almost all over the world in places where we find nice, warm, tropical water. That's where they like to live. Now, manatees can get pretty big. So the manatees that we have around here in the United States, the West Indian or Florida manatee, they can grow to be 11 to 12 feet long. That is very, very big, and they can weigh up to 1,300 pounds. That's a really big, really heavy animal. Their bodies have big, wide flippers to help them swim in the water, and a wide, flat tail that helps them to swim too. But manatees, since they're so big, they aren't very fast animals. They're kind of slow. But they are mammals, just like you and me. We're mammals too, which that means that they breathe air with their lungs. So just like we can breathe air, can you take a big, deep breath in? So they breathe air just like us. They're warm-blooded. That means that they get their energy and they warm up their bodies from the food that they eat, not from the sun, like a cold-blooded animal, like a lizard or a snake. And they produce milk to feed their babies. So manatees usually come up, they can hold their breath for a really long time. They can usually come up for air about every 3 to 4 minutes, but if they need to while they're looking for food in the ocean, they can hold their breath for up to 20 minutes. That's a really long time to hold your breath. How long can you hold your breath for? Maybe that's an experiment you can do later. See how long, have someone use a stopwatch or a timer on your phone and see how long you can hold your breath for. Do you think you can hold your breath as long as a manatee can? Yeah, but maybe it'd be pretty hard though, I think. So they also have fur covering their bodies, but they don't have very much fur on their bodies, just a few hairs here and there. And that makes it very easy for us to see their thick gray skin that covers their whole bodies. Can you think of any other animals that have thick gray skin? I bet you're thinking of a lot of different animals right now. Well, hopefully you're thinking of one because their skin is thick and gray, just like some of their very close relatives, elephants. So they're closer, not super closely related, but they're sort of in the same bigger group of mammals that elephants are. And they also have, just like an elephant does, a prehensile snout. So a snout that they can grab things with. So just an elephant's trunk is very long, right? And they can grab things that are far away. A manatee doesn't have a very long trunk, but their prehensile snout does help them to look for food and grab it on the ocean floor while they're swimming around. Now, manatees love to eat aquatic plants, plants that live in the water, which is one of the main reasons that they're called sea cows. They're big, they move kind of slow, and they love to eat plants that grow on the ocean floor. And in fact, when the tide gets high enough in some places, they've actually been known to swim up over the land and eat the grass that grows on the land. So they eat lots and lots and lots of plants, and it takes their body a really long time to digest their food because they want to make sure that they get as much energy from their food as they possibly can. So it can take up to 7 whole days for food that they eat to make it all the way through their bodies. And like we sang in our song, do you remember that really fun word we sang in our song about their whiskers? So their whiskers are called vibrissae. Can you say that word with me? Vibrissae. And their vibrissae are we see them on around their mouth a lot. They're like long whiskers that help them to feel around and search for food in their environment. They're kind of a little bit like fingers. They can actually feel with them. And actually, manatees have vibrissae all over their body to help them feel around their environment, but there's just a lot of them right up by their mouth so they can help them look for food. So it kind of looks a little bit like a big mustache on the front of their face. Now, because their food can often come with a helping of sand, because they are eating things off the bottom of the ocean, that can be really hard on their teeth. So eating sand is not very good for your teeth. And for that reason, manatees have also adapted that they constantly lose and replace their teeth throughout their lives. So if we think about us as humans, we have two sets of teeth. We have our baby teeth, and when our baby teeth fall out, we grow our adult teeth, and if our adult teeth fall out, oh well, we just don't have a tooth there anymore. So we only have two sets of teeth. But manatees will grow their teeth all throughout their life, grow and replace new teeth all throughout their life while they're eating all that stuff that's kind of hard on their teeth. Now, manatees also have really thick, really strong bones in their body. And along with the layer of fat that covers their body, which the fat helps their bodies float up, 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 but their big, strong, heavy bones help them to float down, 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 down. So with the combination of their big, strong bones and the fat that covers their body, that helps manatees to float perfectly right in the middle of the water. Now, manatees are very gentle and curious and slow-moving animals, and because of this, a lot of humans really love manatees and love learning about them, but we can also cause a big problem for them with things like boats driving around in the areas where they like to live because they can't move very fast, and sometimes they just can't get out of the way of boats. So it's always really important for people who live in areas where manatees live to be on the lookout for manatees while they're driving around with their boats. And luckily, some governments like ours have been really good about putting up signs where there are lots of manatees in a certain area so people know to keep an eye out for them. And luckily, because people care about manatees so much, things are actually looking better for manatees today than they were even 10 or 20 years ago, which is great for manatees. Because I like seeing manatees. I don't know about you, but I think that they're really big, really cute animals. And today we actually have a story about one very special manatee. So let's go check that out. Today's story is Monty the Manatee by Natalie Pritchard and Natalie Merheb. Monty the Manatee was feeling quite shy. It was the first day at sea school for this little guy. At the ocean's gates, he stopped and waved to his caring mummy who was trying to be brave. "You'll be mighty fine, son, now off you go." So Monty paddled his chubby flippers really, really slow. Some jellyfish were chatting in the seagrass, so he bravely swam up to them and politely asked, "My name's Monty. Would you please play with me? It's my very first day in this school at the school in the sea." The jellyfish whooshed their tentacles in disgust. "Leave us alone. This is a private chat. Shush!" In the classroom, Monty met Sydney the shrimp, who held up his fists and shouted, "You're a wimp!" Monty said sorry. He didn't mean to offend. He just wanted someone to be his friend. At lunchtime, Sammy Seal was eating a small fish, so Monty offered him something from his very own dish. The seal wasn't interested in Monty's friendship or food. "I like fast and cool creatures. Leave me alone, dude." A school of fish who were swimming nearby thought it would be funny to join in, so they cried, "Who wants to be mates with a manatee? The ugliest creatures in the sea. They're slow and clumsy most of the time. There's no way you can be a friend of mine." Oh my goodness, all these rude animals. Suddenly, the sea creatures stopped and froze. They saw a dark shadow beneath the mangroves. A huge shark raced at them with jaws stretched wide, yelling, "You're for my supper, so don't try to hide." Clever Monty knew how he could make the shark stop. By closing his eyes, he resembled a rock. So he tucked all his friends under his tummy, staying completely still as taught by his mummy. Do you think it's going to work? They all held their breath as the shark swam near. The jellyfish and seal were quivering with fear. Monty's trick had finally worked. The shark thought I was a rock, he smirked. Monty's school friends gave him a great big cheer. Hooray for Monty! He has no fear. They were sorry for treating him badly before, and they realized now that he wasn't a bore. Monty agreed that they should all be friends. He just wanted the awful bullying to end. So the creatures played nicely from that day on, and Monty passed on this message to everyone. Slower, faster, thinner, or fatter, it's what's on the inside that really matters. Just think about the hurt you might cause when you tell someone they can't play anymore. If you look around, I think you will find the world is a better place when we all be kind. The end. All right, what a great story. Well, today we are going to be making some manatee puppets that we can play with around our house or make them go on adventures or tell stories just like the story we just read. So for our activity today, we're going to need just a few things. We're going to need a paper bag. We're going to need a couple sheets of construction paper. So I've got a lighter colored blue one and a darker colored blue one. And then I've just got a little piece of scrap black construction paper here that I'm going to actually cut into a couple pieces. Then I'll also need some scissors for cutting my paper and some glue. I've got a glue stick here for helping me hold all of my things together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black paper here and I'm going to cut about a third of the way down. So I've got a short piece and a longer piece. And now my longer piece, I'm going to fold in half like this. Now this is kind of a tricky part. I'm going to cut towards the fold. So I've got my open end over here, and I'm going to cut towards my fold like this. But I'm going to cut not all the way to the end, but almost there, so that I can cut out some vibrissae, some long whiskers. So I'm kind of cutting big, long, skinny whiskers, but I'm not cutting all the way through. Not just yet. I think there we go. So now I'm going to have 4 whiskers, and then I can open it up, and I can cut right down the middle, or actually, I kind of like it like that. That makes it look a little bit like a mustache still too, which I think is pretty fun. I'm actually going to shorten a couple of these though. You could change it up however you want to make it sort of your own craft. So it's not exactly like the one that I'm making today. That's kind of fun too, to put your own unique spin on things. So let's cut just a few. There we go. Perfect. And now I've got a little bit more variety in my vibrissae. And I'm going to use my shorter piece here, and I'm going to fold that one in half too, and cut out 2 small circles. Go. Perfect. Those are going to be my manatee's eyes. All right, now I'm going to take my bigger sheet of paper here, and I'm going to need to use this for a couple different things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it right down the middle here, the long way. There we go. And then I'm going to cut one of these long ones in half too. Now, I'm going to use one of these smaller squares for the head and one for the tail. And this longer one, I'm going to fold in half so I can make a couple flippers. So first, let's cut out the head here. And for the head, I'm just going to cut kind of a big oval. Do you know what shape an oval is? It's kind of like a circle, but it's been stretched out. I've got my manatee head there. Great. And now let's cut out my manatee's tail. So the tail, remember, we want it kind of wide and flat on one end. So I'm going to kind of cut it out so it's shorter on one side and longer on the other. There we go. It kind of looks like a triangle that I cut the top off of a little bit. So I've got my manatee tail there, and now let's fold this paper in half, and I'm going to cut out some flippers. So let's cut out these big flippers, help them to get around. I'm going to kind of make a couple little bumps on the end of them, make it kind of wavy on the end. So their tails are flat, but their flippers can be kind of wavy at the ends of them, where you can see their fingers, because their flippers are actually their arms with their hands at the end of them. All right, so I've got my flippers there. Perfect, and now I just need to cut out one more thing. I'm going to use my darker piece of paper here to cut out kind of like a nose and mouth area to put on my manatee. So then I'll be able to see really easily where the nose and mouth thing is, part is on my manatee's head. So for this part, I'm going to make kind of a bean shape. So kind of round on both sides, but kind of curvy too. There we go, a little bit like a jelly bean. There we go. Perfect. Now I just need to start putting all of my manatee pieces together. So first I'm going to take my head here, and I'm going to glue on the mouth and nose part that I just cut out. Let's put some glue on there and stick those two pieces together. There we go. Just like that. And now let's stick those eyes on. So I've got two little black circles for eyes. There we go. One on that side and one on this side. There we go. And now let's stick on those vibrissae. That's such a fun word to say. So this will kind of be like his nose and some whiskers. There we go. And now the fun part about this part is, once this is glued down, a manatee's vibrissae actually point down towards the ground, not out to the side like this. So I'm going to take my vibrissae that I cut, and I'm going to kind of fold them down a little bit so that they're pointing in the right direction so that they can look for food on the ocean floor. And this can be kind of a fun part too, because then they kind of stick out, and when you're playing with your manatee puppet, you can use the vibrissae to they're kind of tickly on this puppet once we're finished making it. So maybe you could use the vibrissae to tickle somebody or tickle yourself. There we go. We've got some vibrissae pointing down now. Perfect. And now let's start putting everything onto our paper bag. Now you might also, if things aren't sticking very well with our glue stick, sometimes we just have to be patient and wait. But we could also use a stapler if the glue really isn't sticking. So I'm going to put some glue here on my paper bag to hold my manatee's head on. just like that. Let's give it a nice strong press down there. Perfect. And now I'm going to stick the tail on here. Let's put some glue right there and stick on this tail. Now these manatee puppets that we're making might be really big puppets, depending on what size bag we use. But that's okay, because remember, manatees are big animals. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on both of the flippers and kind of slide them into the sides. One and one on this side too. Let's put the cap back on my glue. I don't want my glue to dry out. And two. And there we go. Now I've got this fun, I can put my hand inside it like this, and we've got a fun manatee puppet that we can swim around and have it go on adventures all over the place. Who knows what your manatee is going to get up to? All right, well, I hope you had so much fun today learning about manatees, and I hope that you join us next time for another episode of Museum Munchkins.